Sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are here to talk with Kit Sawyers of Klyde Warren Park and just get more insight in everything as far as how life has been at the park. So essentially, we just kind of want to jump into write the questions and just hearing more about her and her experience. So first of all, my name is Jamila Sherman and I'm the manager of programs and membership for the Doak Network. I help oversee the Doak at Redbird operations and just all programming and resources needed for entrepreneurs in our space. So nonetheless, I'll just kick right into Kit's amazing bio. Kit Sawyer is the president of Klyde Warren Park, Dallas's favorite green space, which welcomes more than 1 million visitors per year. I feel like it's probably way more than that, but we'll go with that. She also serves on the leadership team for the 120 million expansion of this internationally renowned Doak Park. Sawyers has spent her entire professional career working in the nonprofit sector, so very familiar with what we do here at the Doak Network. She has started with the Willis M. Tate Distinguished Lecture Series, the SMU Athletic Forum, and Doak Walker National Running Back Award. After several years of serving as executive director for Bickel and Brewer's Foundation, Sawyers took her role as VP of Special Events for the Super Bowl, for which she produced more than 40 regional events. Wow. Sawyers has served as Executive Director for Pat and Emmett Smith's Charities and Chief Development Officer for the United Way of Metropolitan Dallas, while along the way co-founding the company that organized the 2014 NCAA Men's Basketball Final Four and produced the grand opening of Klyde Warren Park's Emmett Smith Celebrity Invitational and events for organizations such as the College Football Hall of Fame. Wow, she's done it all. So nonetheless, thank you for joining us today, Kit. And to just jump right in, what do you feel as though inspired Klyde Warren Park? Was there a concept need for it in Dallas? What kind of birthed it in general?
So, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And you're right, our numbers probably are higher, but we don't have doors, so we can't exactly keep track. We just on Wi-Fi try to figure it out each year. So what started Klyde Warren Park really was the mass exodus from downtown Dallas every day. You know, uptown Dallas was beginning to boom and downtown was being choked off a little bit by Woodall Rogers and really just left behind. And so a few of our founders got together and thought, you know, it's been talked about putting some kind of deck park over this section of Woodall Rogers. The engineering is available to do something like that right now. Let's get serious and get some money and do this. So Sheila and Jody Grant gave $1 million, Texas Capital Bank gave $1 million, and the Real Estate Council, TRAC, gave $1 million to do a feasibility study to get this going. And there are two inspirations, I would say, in addition to the fact that they are trying to address a real need in Dallas. One was just the desire for more connectivity in general for the city. Dallas is siloed off into different neighborhoods. And, you know, a lot of us for certainly the past 10 years since Klyde Warren Park was created, but for the 10 years before that as well, have really been trying to create more walking spaces, make Dallas a more walkable city with the Katy Trail, for example, and other paths like that. And it was based on other parks around the country. Cities that really used their parks in ways that Dallas did not. Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta, Millennium Park in Chicago, and in particular, a very small park called Bryant Park out of New York, where it really just became part of the neighborhood and would show movies and would do fitness classes and had a restaurant as part of it. And I would say Klyde Warren Park is modeled after Bryant Park as much as anything. And the real key to it, the secret sauce, I call it, is not just the green space, which is important. Not just the fact that it's a gathering spot, but the programming, which we spend a lot of money and time on, thanks to generous donations from foundations and corporations and individuals. But to really bring the community together from every neighborhood, every socioeconomic level, people who look different from each other, people who vote differently from each other, people who worship differently from each other. They're different ages, they have different levels of mobility, bringing them all together to share a common experience of our humanity in these traditions that the park has. So I would say that in a nutshell is the inspiration.
That's great to hear. Very good. Thank you for sharing that insight too into hearing that you guys really did kind of model it off for other parks, but then took Dallas into heavy consideration when making that. So you brought up a good point of programming. I'm not too familiar with the programming of Klyde Warren, and I'm sure many other people aren't, because like you said, people are attracted to it based off the green space. So can you elaborate more on what programming you guys do offer or the goals of it just in general?
For sure. So the best way to keep up with the programming we offer is to go to our website and sign up for our weekly newsletter. We just sent it out at 11 o'clock this morning, and it shows what is happening in the park each week. We have about 60,000 people in the community who receive our weekly e-newsletter, and we have a very high open rate and high click-through rate, because to your point, once you learn there are things going on, you want to see what's happening. If your favorite band is going to be performing, if your favorite ballet dancers are going to be there, because there are things happening all the time. Also, following us on social media is a great way to learn about what we have going on in the park. But we have not only an events department, but also a programming department. The events department puts on third-party events, most of which are open to the public. We haven't had them recently, these big festivals and parades representing lots of different countries, different ethnic groups, with food and music available to all. So real cultural learning opportunities for the community. But we are getting back to that. Our programming team specifically offers exercise classes. We have 3 fitness classes on Saturday morning, 3 on Sunday mornings. They are all free. They're things like yoga and bar and boot camp. We have a group called Adaptive Training who was supposed to come in last Saturday, but it rained, and so we're rescheduling them. They work with vets who have lost limbs, and they are offering a fitness class for everyone at the park to participate in. We have a group called Band and Coro, which comes and performs dances and African music. We have, in our reading and games room, we have a woman who does story time for the children. And then we work a lot with the Arts District to put on different performances or have free performances, and did a lot during COVID, which I know we're going to get to in a minute. So I can elaborate a little bit more on that then. But being right in the Arts District has given us a great opportunity to be able to pull some of those performers out from behind their walls and put on things for the general public to see for free.
That's great to see. And, essentially the topic of this conversation is how COVID has impacted the arts. So with you guys being the epicenter of the Dallas Arts District, how did COVID kind of impact Klyde Warren Park? Did it impact Klyde Warren Park negatively? Did it, spark new ideas?
It did impact us, and it impacted us negatively, but it gave us the opportunity to have a little bit more ingenuity and do things a little bit differently. So there was a silver lining. So part of my job is to bring in about $5 million a year to put on the park each year. We have a public improvement district, which benefits Klyde Warren Park and the Arts District. And those are additional taxes, which are raised from the neighbors who pay a little bit more to have that area kept clean, safe, and active, the park and the Arts District in particular, for the benefit of the entire community, which is terrific. So that is about $1 million a year of the $5 million I typically raise, and I'm guaranteed that. The rest, though, comes from our fundraiser, our annual fundraiser, which we were not able to have this past year. A big seated dinner and a food and wine festival, which generates usually about $1 million for the park each year, went away. Our food trucks and our restaurant, those generate money for the park. The restaurant, as you know, Savor, is no longer at the park, was a victim of COVID, and the food trucks had to go away for a little while, but those are back. So that was helpful. The event rental and foundation grants and sponsorship dollars and membership societies are the remaining, I guess, 2 million or so that come to the park to put everything on each year. It's expensive to manage a park on top of a highway, as you might imagine. But the economic return to the city is, I think it's billions of dollars. It's with all the tax value that the increase in tax value right around the park has just paid the city back so much. Like the economic impact of Klyde Warren Park is estimated to be close to $3 billion for the city of Dallas. Wow. It was a good return on investment. But our budget, I had to cut our budget because all of a sudden this money wasn't coming in, from about 5 million to about 3.5 million. And it was very important for us to keep the park open. We tried to rally a little bit during shelter in place before people knew that being outside was the safe space that the CDC ultimately determined it was, with a less than 1% transmission rate outside. And so we tried to bring story time to life early on, and we started getting local influencers and celebrities to read children's books to kids while they were with their parents or caregivers at home. But then quickly we realized we've got to be what the city needs us to be right now. And so we slashed the budget and we did what we could. We weren't getting foundation money anymore because that was all going as it should have to the emergency response of COVID. And we don't really feel like we were part of the emergency response to COVID, right? We weren't offering food. We weren't providing medical equipment, but we very quickly developed a leadership role, or took on a leadership role in its recovery, in the city's recovery from COVID. So we wanted to make sure the park was a place that people could come and feel safe. So we did not, for example, offer COVID testing at the park. We figured there were other places that could do that and were set up for that, even parking lots. We really wanted the park to be a park. Now, we did have the opportunity for people who had been vaccinated to come and give plasma at the park once they were healthy, but we encouraged people who were sick to not come to the park so that people who weren't sick had an outdoor space to enjoy. I mean, that term stir crazy exists for a reason. And especially during sheltering in place, people wanted to be able to get outside. So we did everything we could to create a safe, clean space. When the city had to slash the budgets for the park and rec department, they were no longer able to spray for mosquitoes. They were no longer able to mow. And Klyde Warren Park was able to do that. So the park is a city park per se. The city of Dallas owns Klyde Warren Park. The Woodall Rogers Park Foundation, which is the nonprofit foundation to which I report, that manages the park, has a 90-year lease with the city of Dallas to keep the park, as I said, clean and safe and active. So the money that we raise each year that I mentioned, it takes care of security. We have 24-hour security. We have, a natural lavender spray that keeps the mosquitoes away. I have yet to see a mosquito at Klyde Warren Park. We have great partnerships with groups who do the mowing and everything for us, but we are privately managed. So we didn't have to do exactly what the city had to do when it came to cutting the budget, but we did need to figure out a loophole, which I did, so that we were going to be able to continue not only to keep the park acting like a park, but to provide this programming we just talked about in the way people had come to expect and the way they were needing.
Thanks for sharing that, Kit. That was such great insight and just knowledge about a lot of people may have not known that the city actually owns the park. And I love that you guys put emphasis on still keeping the park a park. So there are plenty, other locations in Dallas that may have converted due to the times of COVID and provided vaccines or just kind of changed their model. But I love that you guys made sure that, like you said, these stir crazy, we still need a place to go and just enjoy being at a park. And the importance of, organic and natural remedies, such as what you guys use to fight mosquitoes, because I go to Klyde Warren almost every Sunday. I'll probably be there tomorrow. I saw online the Mi Casina pop-up bar. So, I've never experienced a mosquito myself. So that is just so good to hear. So to that point, how do you guys continue to plan to build community virtually or just long-term, since you guys are just kind of rocking it out right now?
So the loophole I found, which it's probably not a good term, but it was just the right direction for us to go. One of the good things, another one of the silver linings about COVID is we started meeting weekly. All the heads of the arts district entities and I started having a weekly Zoom call. I also
encouraged collaboration.
Collaboration, exactly. Yeah. Because we wanted to present ourselves as a group so that the community wouldn't be confused. So that the Nasher wasn't going to have a certain set of rules and the Dallas Museum of Art was going to have a different set. So we did a lot of that as a team to make it easier for the community, because the community had so many different signals being thrown at it anyway. We thought this will help us share information and unite. I had a separate call also with outdoor venues, the Arboretum and the zoo and Fair Park, so that we were also able to try to share information. And so that's really brought some terrific partnerships. What I realized when I realized how important those partnerships were, and I started looking for them elsewhere. And when Governor Abbott came out last July with the rules, the orders that we abided by for forever, what he said about parks was that parks could not put on events for more than 10 people. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a way around this, because we have a 30,000 square foot lawn just in front of that stage. And I found a group that was a national group called that focused on outdoor fine arts performance venues. And I joined that group and I heard about what types of rules they had that applied to them. And I realized they were different than the ones that were applied to parks. That fine arts performance venues, even in Dallas or in Texas, did not have capacity restrictions. Outdoor fine arts performance venues did not. They, as long as you kept groups of 10 or fewer, 6 feet apart, you could put on performances if they were safe for the performers. And I think the rationale was, at an event, people who were, the government, when in trying to keep us safe, was envisioning people facing each other, talking to each other at an event, versus at a performance, you're all facing the same way, similar to church, right? So churches were able to keep doing things. So I went to the Parks Department, and went to City Hall, because they were given the opportunity to provide exceptions to the governor's rule. And we got Klyde Warren Park reclassified for purposes of COVID, not as a park, but as an outdoor fine arts performance venue. So we developed protocols that went with that to keep people safe. But starting last really summer, I mean, all summer and into the fall, we put on movies, we put on concerts, we put on the only live Independence Day fireworks in the city of Dallas. Mayor Johnson came on and spoke at the beginning of what became a TV show, because we recorded it so that people who were staying at home could actually watch fireworks on the 4th of July. We had it a week early so that we could record it, and we dedicated it to healthcare heroes. We also typically have people come to our tree lighting each December. We'll have 20,000 people come to our tree lighting. So what our team decided to do this past year, we did 8 separate tree lightings so that we could spread the crowd over in a safe way. And Santa Claus kept lighting that tree up overnight throughout.
Very strategic.
Yeah. We had, carolers from Booker T. Washington, and we had so many performing arts groups participate. It was fun because all those little ballerinas, who do dance class and have their end of year performances, didn't have a place to perform, because the theater where they were typically going to perform, or the rec center, or wherever they were going to be performing, wasn't able to put things on. They came to the park. So it was a win-win, because they got to have their performances, whatever they were. And the park audience, the guests, got to see these free performances, that they never would have seen. And so we had the Nutcracker and all sorts of things. So really this, what COVID has allowed us to do is just become an even stronger partner of a lot of the performing arts groups. And I hope that continues. I hope that they continue putting on performances in the park for people to see, because, as I said, they're otherwise behind walls and you don't know about them, or you're not necessarily invited to them. And there's so many talented people and communities in Dallas and in North Texas that it's fun to share all that with each other. And there, as we all know, there's nothing a performer likes more than an audience.
And I like that you guys reinvented the wheel, because to the point of this whole topic of conversation, this series birthed from entrepreneurs coming to Redbird and letting me know there is no space for arts and entertainment entrepreneurs. We typically view entrepreneurship as, VC funding, tech, or transportation, or just different industries. So how do you feel as though Dallas kind of positions or encourages the creative arts space? Do you feel as though it is lacking? Do you think we should make it more of a priority as the city overall? I think from what you kind of said, you found that loophole to make it work for your park, but long term, this should probably be the solution.
I think it is a moment in time for the arts in Dallas, unlike any other, and it's a moment in time for outdoor spaces, unlike any other. And I think that the city is very committed to the arts right now. And I think we need to, milk that for all it's worth, because it's a loophole, but I can't tell you how cooperative the city officials were in helping me accomplish these objectives. As long as we developed protocols that were safe, which not only did we do, but the city took our protocols and shared it with all the other entities that they manage. And Downtown Dallas Inc. even shared our protocols with AT&T for the AT&T Discovery District. So as long as we were able to do that and prove over and over that that we could keep people safe, everyone bent over backwards to help each other and to make this go through. So I have found that the powers that be have been tremendously in favor of the arts and doing whatever it possible, they can to help them thrive in every community in Dallas. There is a little bit of a trickle down effect. I feel very responsible for Klyde Warren Park carrying that banner, because the more successful we are, the more successful other newer groups tend to be. And so I want to make sure that we are constantly on the cutting edge and pushing the envelope in that way. But I feel like it's an exciting time to be in the city for lots of different reasons, because we have remained bold in our vision.
I would definitely agree. Thanks for sharing that. Is there anything, what is your favorite thing, I guess, essentially about the park? Is there anything that you're excited that you guys have adopted and you are excited to keep moving forward outside of the entertainment?
So I love the fact that people who come to the park don't know each other, and they just come with a smile on their faces. They're open, they have open hearts, they're happy to be there, they are kind to each other. We never have security issues. Families are gracious to one each other. There's something special that makes people, and I don't know if you feel it when you come, but I think people feel protective of the park, and they want to make sure that it stays clean and it stays there and it stays friendly, because I think it serves a purpose for us. I also, one of the things that we started before COVID that I'm really excited about finally being able to get going is our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We started a task force as part of Klyde Warren Park's corporate council last year, and then COVID hit, and so we weren't able to have a lot of our programming that we were beginning to focus on. I didn't want our office to be coming up with, well, how about this program, or how about this program? We really wanted we want to make sure it continues to be reflective of the community in all ways, not just racial diversity, equity, inclusion, but as I mentioned, mobility, age, all different countries that are represented by people who now live in Dallas and in North Texas. And so we've got a team of folks who are looking into it for us to really help make sure that our programming, now and in the future, continues to be reflective of the talents and traditions of all different cultures. And so I think that's probably what I'm chomping at the bit to go ahead and get going with.
And that's beautiful. You feel as though you have to carry the torch to keep that tone moving forward. Do you feel as though Klyde Warren Park, and I do feel as this, because it's changed just my daily weekend routine. Do you feel as though it's caused a culture shift in the city of Dallas in general? Do you feel as though it's encouraged people to be outdoors more, and people to come downtown more, people to literally just come and, be in each other's space, whereas traditionally people, like you said, may have been pocketed and sectored off in their neighborhoods?
I hope so. That's one of the reasons I joined. Certainly with COVID, and it's, I've done a lot of research, as you can imagine, the way we all have in our different areas, done a lot of research on parks and on pandemics, and a lot of outdoor space around the country. Some of the best outdoor space was designed after the Spanish flu, for example. So I do think there's a resurgence across the country, including in Dallas, of a love for green space. In fact, the Highline out of New York has put together a group called the Highline Network, which is parks and trails from around the country who meet regularly as well to exchange information, to share public art installations throughout. So I do feel like there is a culture shift toward utilizing parks in this way to bring the community together. And it's just a little bitty 5.2 acre park. Now with our expansion, which I'm also excited about, we're going to add 1.5 more acres. But I do crazily enough feel like this little bitty park has had an impact on breaking down some silos and bringing people together. And it will be that again, even more when the businesses come back surrounding the park, when we get that restaurant in there and the museums are open to capacity and everyone is back in their offices. Then you're really going to see all these different people with all different backgrounds converging, which is, it's got to be one of the proudest. I'm from Dallas. I was born in Baylor Hospital. And so I've seen this place for, 50 plus years, and I love Dallas. And I'm really proud of Dallas right now. I think we are all working really hard together to make it the best city that we can. And I'm grateful that Klyde Warren Park is able to play a little role in that.
Great to hear. And I'm born and raised in Dallas, also from the Oak Cliff area. So to see how things have just, like you said, we're becoming more so a transplant city, a more melting pot. There are so many different cultures and people come here for work and opportunities. So to just see how Dallas is trying to encompass all of that and expand, and also just, like you said, change a culture. Because Dallas today is definitely not the Dallas I know even when I was growing up. So that is definitely beautiful to hear. So you mentioned the expansion. What's kind of new or next for Klyde Warren in general for the summer or the fall? I already know Mikasina's there tomorrow. So any other ones?
It's going to look different this time next year. So if you and I have a little anniversary event on May 7th of next year, we're going to be talking a little bit about a different looking park. So by this time next year, we're doing this phase 2 of Klyde Warren Park, which, to be honest, was always anticipated. They just got tired. They ran out of money. They thought, let's just build what we got right now, get this thing going, and then we'll take it forward. So there was always the desire to expand create those 2 decks going west that we're going to be adding. But we're breaking it down into the true expansion, the creation of new decks, and what we're calling enhancements of the current park. So a lot of the enhancements are going to be done by when you and I get together May 7th next year. So we will have moved the dog park, which is on our east lawn currently, which is right on Pearl. That is going to move across Woodall Rogers toward the south, so in front of Museum Tower. That's going to be a bigger and shadier dog park, which we're really excited about. And the neighbors have embraced that and are supporting it and are helping to create what that looks like. And then the east lawn, when you're on Pearl and you're driving so that the park's on the right, you're driving toward the Arts District from uptown, there is a triangular shaped piece of lawn there. That's going to be turned into the Nancy Best Fountain, which is, we've seen the renderings of just recently. It's stunning. It's going to be beautiful, and the water will go up typically about 30 feet in the air with these 3 15-foot tall trees. They're steel structures, and the water will shoot up and come down softly on the children, and there'll be a splash pad underneath. And it will also be programmed in the evening to music and lights, to symphonic music. We might be able to do, happy birthday and some different cultural celebrations as well. Then, obviously, as you said, Mikasina will be coming, and that's going to happen, I'm thinking, in September, that they will actually be in the restaurant space. So that'll be terrific. So in the meantime, we keep having these pop-up bars and their food truck coming to the park, which has been great. And then our children's park, our playground, is about to double in size. We have a gift for that we have not announced yet. And we are going to, that place was too small, they realized, from the day the park opened. I mean, that is such a popular park.
It is very popular. It is, I would say, probably one of the biggest draws outside of the food truck, from what I've noticed, is the children's park.
I could not agree more. And we had to keep it closed for a while with COVID. So we're thrilled to have it open again. And we're going to be taking over the area that's right next to that, to the children's park on the other side of the fence there, which is a botanical meditation garden, which is barely used. So that will become children's park. So that's all going to happen between now and this time next year. Then next year, at some point, you will start seeing the building of the 2 additional decks, one between St. Paul and Ackerd, so down that children's park side, and then the other one on the other side of Ackerd. And, we're going to be building a 2-story building with a rooftop deck, which will be amazing. And it can be rented for nonprofit events. The second floor it's a ballroom, can be rented for nonprofit events. We're going to partner with groups in the city to make sure that it's a revenue center for the park, but it's also, I want it to be available, and we all do, the leadership at the park, to nonprofit groups. So, we will continue to have programming, indoor programming versus outdoor programming, so that building is truly of the park and the same spirit of the park, if that makes sense. And then the first level below this ballroom and this rooftop deck will be a true community center of sorts, like a college student union or something where there's coffee and there's food, but there's also information about how you get tickets to all sorts of different things that are in the arts district, maybe, the day of, maybe even sporting events, because we have so many people from out of town who come to the park. They'll be able to see, there'll be a concierge there, and they'll be able to say, these are all the things that are happening. And then across the street, the final part of the expansion is our Jacobs lawn. So Jacobs, the engineering company, has graciously and generously donated $8 million to build this lawn. And that lawn is going to be a 40,000 square foot rectangular lawn. And it will allow us, and it will actually be artificial turf. So, the rest of the park is natural turf. It will be artificial over there. And what that will allow us to do is put on some of these festivals over there, book festivals, flower markets, fashion shows. We even have a partnership with the Dallas Stars. There's going to be an ice skating rink, an outdoor ice skating rink over there for 6 weeks to 2 months a year. That's worked into the infrastructure of the deck. So we'll be able to flip that for events and things that Dallas doesn't necessarily have, that some other cities around the world have, and then save our lawn proper for picnics and things like that, because that current lawn gets loved on a lot, and we have to close it. Like it just closed today. We just did a resod and had to close it. So that'll allow us to have that open a little bit more, and let people to just lounge and enjoy and play Frisbee on that.
That sounds like a lot in store. All great things, great things. So I'm so happy to hear that, and that you guys are really looking at it as a viewpoint of, how are we changing the culture moving forward? How are we impacting those who come to visit the city? How do we impact those who live in the city? How do we appeal to just the future of Dallas, which is so, so good to hear. And of course, tying in the arts and entertainment realm overall. So my last question is just essentially, do you have any other final thoughts or words for our group as far as just, what to kind of expect, what to just motivate them as far as entrepreneurs, or just entrepreneurs who may have been in the creative space or entertainment who kind of didn't really come out on top the best they could during COVID?
So, well, two things. One, I would say, this is a community park. This is a community effort. So feel free to email me at kit@KlydeWarrenPark.org. Anybody who's on this call who has opinions about the park. I love opinions about the park because we're honestly shaping the park and the expansion and the enhancements around how the park is used. So the more communicative you guys are, the better the park will be. So all opinions welcome. Regarding entrepreneurs in general, I would just say, I think that we're in a great city to be entrepreneurial. I always say that the Dallas Mavericks, I think, are the most properly named team for our city. I think we have a real maverick attitude. It implies a little bit of risk taking and a lack of fear and willing to do something nobody else has done. So I think really just the environment is good for that. Dallas thrives on its entrepreneurial leaders. So just keep at it. I would just say, look for your loophole, whatever that is, because I could have just thrown in the towel and said, parks can't have more than 10 people at a time. We didn't. In fact, we figured out a way to, do our part as community members to help the city in whatever way we could. And we all have that in us. And there's someone always looking to help people who are motivated and have good ideas and will work their tails off. So I think, we're all in it together, and that's what differentiates our city from other places. We talked about my Super Bowl and my Final Four involvement. That's what differentiates Dallas. The sense of hospitality, the sense that it is, there's possibility here. Things are just off to you off the bat. There is a way to figure out how to get things done. I think that I'm just grateful to be living here right now, and grateful for all the work you guys do, because you bring excitement to our city, which is good for everybody.
Thanks for sharing that, Kit. So I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I think this was a great conversation, great insight, and insight to just really hear Klyde Warren Park's mission and vision in the future and how you guys shifted and continue to make Dallas a great city. So nonetheless, thank you, Kit, for being able to stop by and chat with us. Thank you, everyone else who tuned in. As she mentioned, she shared her email address, but I will send it out again to the participants. If you have any particular questions on how to get your business kind of back into shape based off what Kit shared today. And I am Jamila Sherman of the Deck Network, so you can always feel free to reach out to me. But you guys have a great weekend. And nonetheless, thank you all for tuning in. And thank you again, Kit.
Thanks, Jamila. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.